Well, that was there was some good out there and some not so good, and I think, like I told the guys, I was proud of their effort, the way they competed. I think that's a pretty good offense, holding the 16 points. I thought defensively, our guys played physical. They played for 4 quarters, exactly the style play we want to see, but obviously couldn't get enough going offensively, and that was disappointing. That's a really good defense, and they give you a lot of challenging looks, and we really struggled, especially in the first half, blocking movement and getting anything going. I thought in the second half we did a better job. We were able to run the ball a little bit. But all in all, like I told the guys, we're in the tournament. Everybody's 0-0. We're going to have to go on the road, and we got to embrace that opportunity.
Do you have any idea about Buller's knee, and what was the thinking of having him in at that point?
Yeah, I mean, we're just limited on bodies in regards to we both those safeties, quite honestly, and in regards to when we were going nickel defense and trying to match personnel, one of those guys had to go in. So, it's unfortunate. I think he's going to be okay, but we'll have an update for you tomorrow, I'm sure.
But you mentioned going on the road for the third time in 3 years. What about this year maybe compares or contrasts to what you guys have faced each of the last 2 years?
Yeah, I mean, I think every year is a different year and different experience, and you got to learn from your past, no doubt about it. And I think it's just, the urgency that needs to be there from the moment we start preparing, which is really right now, in terms of for those guys that battled today, getting their bodies back. We got to have a great week of preparation. We got to maximize it, make the most of it, and go shoot our shot.
Is momentum just not relevant when it comes to getting your team healthy?
Yeah, I think we did the right thing today in regards to trying to, and we'll see. Time will tell. But I feel better about this certainly than I did a year ago after the game. It was a double whammy when we lose the game and you lose like a key player for us to go into that run. So I thought this was the best decision.
What is the benefit for the guys who didn't play, maybe who are healthy or just borderline not healthy for this practice week? Do you feel like you can practice harder? Do you feel like it's practice more?
I think everything's fluid in terms of how we go about the week. I mean, a lot of it is going to be dependent upon which day we play. But I do think, I think we had a pretty good week of practice, I felt like, this last week for the guys that we were trying to rest. They did get a lot of reps. We went a lot of good on good, and our one offense versus our one defense. And so I think we're physically in a better place.
How do you go about just changing the tone and the intensity of what's to come this coming week?
Well, I think you definitely stick with your process that you believe in, but I think just everybody has to understand the magnitude of the playoffs and what that brings in regards to there's a finality to it. So you got to go play your best ball.
Like in a locker room like that, obviously knowing you've lost 4 straight, but now it's a clean slate.
Yeah, I think it's just that. It's like, hey, we're in the dance. We got to go on the road, and we're going to have to play our best football moving forward.
You referenced last year a couple times during the week, and again now. If you don't have happen what happened against the Bears, do you take the same approach, you think, or did that really impact it?
I definitely think that was a major driving force in regards to the decision to try to keep out as many guys as we could. I mean, obviously, I talked about it earlier this week. I mean, you have 55 spots because you got a 53 plus 2 elevations. Certainly some guys were injured going into this game that couldn't play anyways. So there's not too many guys that you can truly protect. And we tried to protect as many as we could, but also I thought it was great. It was just a great opportunity for a lot of these guys that haven't gotten the reps that maybe they want. And anytime you're going out there and, I mean, you're on display for the whole world to see. And so I thought it was great exposure for those guys, and I liked how they competed.
When it came to play calling, you obviously want to give Clayton an opportunity. It's also a really good defense, and your starting quarterback is the backup. So what did you kind of do play calling wise, if anything, to try and make sure Clayton wasn't in harm's way too much?
Well, I think first and foremost, if we got in that situation where Jordan was going to go in the game, there was not going to be a pass attempted. So we made that decision based on the circumstances, just prior to even coming into this game. But that's a really good defense. That's one of the better defenses in the league. They're very aggressive. They got us on a couple things in protection when we did try to throw the football. We knew that we were going to have to lean on the run game. I thought early on it just wasn't good enough in regards to we had some missed targets. We had some, when they brought pressures, there were a couple free hitters in the hole at times. I talked to E about the one we got a downhill run. There's a free hitter right there. We just can't lose 19 yards on a run play. So that one definitely hurt us. But all in all, I thought he certainly bounced back. He had a great kickoff return. I thought he was running hard. We kind of got some of our outside zone going a little bit in the second half. So that was encouraging.
How do you judge Clayton's day? You know all the circumstances on both sides.
Yeah, I think it's a very tough one to judge based on just it's like the perfect storm. You're going against one of the most aggressive defenses in the National Football League, and they're very good at what they do. And you do have a tough environment where you're on the silent count, and I thought I liked how he attacked the challenge.
I think he got out of Sorrell and Bretton Cox, and is that any kind of sign that they could help you in the playoffs?
Yeah, I think absolutely. I thought both those guys played really hard, and I'm sure we got to go take a look at it and do a deeper dive on it and critique it. But I thought as far as the energy and just how they competed, I was happy with that.
What do you think of Diggs? Do you think he can help you going forward?
Yeah, absolutely. I think another one that, you have an idea of how it's going, but until you look at the tape, certainly I think it was good for him to just hear some of the calls, get acclimated with our defense, and then I think we can build on that going into this week.
Too much to think that he could start against the Bears?
No, I wouldn't say that. I think everything's up for discussion.
Would all your inactives besides Wicks and Malik be good to go if it was a week?
I believe so.
Maybe hard to judge, maybe it's not because of who they're playing against, but maybe a good first test for Jordan Morgan at left tackle.
Yeah, again, I got to go back and look at it. I know there were a couple things early on that we didn't do a very good job with, but I thought as the game wore on, the better he got.
More, please. What did you think of the run defense coming off of the Ravens game in this game?
Yeah, there were some moments where we gave up some big explosion runs where we missed a tackle, but I thought it definitely felt more sound. There were a couple late in the game where you could feel the push, where Minnesota was able to get too much push up front and have a big hole. But all in all, I thought it felt better. It should feel better. We gave up 300 yards rushing last week, so.
I know you don't want to go into the playoffs with a 4-game losing streak. I know how that sounds. But what kind of vibe do you get from your guys?
I think our guys are excited. They're excited for the challenge. They're excited for the opportunity, and that's how we're going to attack it, and that's our mindset. Because right now, when you get to the postseason, everybody's 0-0. It's a clean slate. So we have an opportunity, and that's all you can ask for.
You work obviously all year to get to the playoffs. What gives you the confidence that you guys can make a run here?
I believe in that locker room. I believe in the talent that we have, the players that we have, how committed they are, how together they are, and I know the type of fight that we have as a football team.